My mother-in-law announced my miscarriage at dinner, so I responded by announcing her infidelity at her anniversary party. When I was 12 weeks pregnant, I suddenly felt a strange warmth running down my leg while I was at the office. I went to the bathroom and saw that my dress was soaked in blood. Shaking uncontrollably, I called Mark and told him, "Something is wrong with the baby. I'm bleeding a lot. Come get me now." He answered, "I'm coming right now. Stay where you are." And I could hear him grabbing his keys and running out. When they finally got me into a room and hooked me up to the monitors, our baby was already gone. The doctor used words like spontaneous and nothing you could have done, but the only thing I could hear was that the little heart we saw on the ultrasound 3 weeks ago wasn't beating anymore and nobody knew why. Mark sat next to me on the hospital bed, covered his face, and started to cry. I hugged him and said, "Forgive me." And he looked at me and replied, "No, of course not. This isn't your fault." He held me tight against his chest and we stayed like that until the nurse came in to explain what came next. We agreed not to tell anyone until we felt ready. "Your mom is the last person I want to see right now," I told him. Mark nodded and said, "I know. We'll tell people whenever you want. Nobody else needs to know." I believed him blindly. I had no reason to mistrust him, but I forgot that it was impossible to hide anything from his mother, Lorraine, because she had keys to our house and came in whenever she wanted. 3 days later, I was on the kitchen floor crying over a onesie I had bought the week before when I heard the door open and Lorraine walked in carrying grocery bags and looking annoyed. "Wow," she said, looking at the scattered tissues and the empty ice cream tub, "you really made a scene." I wiped my face and said, "Lorraine, I wasn't expecting you." She didn't even look at me. She went to put down the bags and answered, "I can see that. When Mark told me you weren't feeling well, I thought it was something minor, like a cold or something, not that you were in a total crisis." She turned around and saw the onesie, narrowing her eyes. "Is that for a baby?" "Why are you crying over baby clothes, Elise?" I didn't want to tell her anything, but she kept giving me that look she uses when they mess up her order at a restaurant, and without any strength left, I just wanted her to leave. "I lost the baby," I said, and my voice cracked. 3 days ago. We didn't want to tell anyone yet. Lorraine's expression changed. It almost looked like she felt pity, if I didn't know how she really is. She sat next to me, took my hands and said, "Oh, sweetie, no wonder. I already suspected something was wrong with you, but I thought you were just in a bad mood again." I told her, "I'm not in a bad mood. I lost my baby." She squeezed my hands and said, Yes, I understand. And surely you're blaming yourself, even though I'm sure the doctor told you these things happen, especially if it's the first pregnancy and you're stressed." She looked at me, tilting her head. "You have been very stressed, haven't you? You work too much, you don't take care of yourself. I've been telling Mark for months that you needed to slow down, but you never listened to me." I let go of her hands and said, "The doctor said it wasn't my fault." Lorraine nodded slowly, saying, "Sure, they always say that, but a woman knows she needs to take care of herself more, eat well, rest. It's not like you put your family first, is it?" She patted my leg and added, "But oh well, it's over. Nothing can be done now." I asked her, "Please don't tell anyone. I need time before the whole family knows." She even put her hand on her chest and swore, "I promise you, sweetie. I would never betray your trust. I swear on my marriage. This stays between us until you are ready. I just think the family deserves to know. They've been waiting for grandkids for so long, it's not fair for you to leave them in the dark out of shame." That Friday she called to tell me she was organizing a dinner because we needed the support of those who love us. "Just close family," she said. "You need to get out of your house. Staying locked up crying isn't going to bring the baby back," she told me. I replied, "I don't think I'm ready to see anyone." She let out a sigh and said, "Elise, this isn't about what you want. Mark is suffering too and needs his family. Or are you going to do the same old thing and only think about yourself?" So I put on a dress and let Mark take me to his parents' house, and when we arrived, I saw 30 people sitting in the dining room. I squeezed Mark's arm and whispered, "You said close family." And he just said, "I guess my mom invited more people." Bear with it for a bit. Lorraine, in her cream-colored dress, was going from one side to the other among the people, and as soon as she saw me, she ran toward me, grabbed my face and yelled, "Oh, you poor thing. You look exhausted. Have you even slept? You have terrible bags under your eyes." Everyone stared at me. Halfway through dinner, Lorraine stood up, tapped her glass, and asked for silence. "Please, pray for us," she let out crying. "My son just lost his first baby, and although I try to be strong, the truth is my heart is broken." 30 people turned to look at me. Lorraine sat down, took my hand, and whispered in my ear, "You should smile, otherwise everyone is going to think you don't appreciate that they are here for you." It was right there that I decided that the next day I was going to confront Mark and make him choose between his mom and me. Lorraine really thought I was going to stay quiet like always, but she had just made the biggest mistake of her life, trying to play the suffering grandmother in front of everyone. So I was going to force her to explain, in front of her son, why she broke her promise. For the first time in 5 years, I stopped being afraid of what would happen if I stopped being nice, and I'm going to tell you exactly how that conversation went. The ride back in the car was pure silence for at least 10 minutes. I looked out the window hoping Mark would say something, that he would apologize or admit that what his mom did was unforgivable. Finally, he cleared his throat and said, "I know tonight wasn't what you expected." I laughed because it was the worst minimization I had ever heard. It wasn't what I expected? "Mark, your mom announced our loss to 30 people after promising me she wouldn't tell anyone." He gripped the steering wheel and said, "She just wanted to help. She thought you needed support." I stared at him and asked, did she think I needed support or that she needed an audience? We parked outside the house, and he just stared at the garage door without daring to say anything else. "I need you to ask for her forgiveness," he said in a low voice. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Ask for her forgiveness? He turned to look at me with that soft face he makes when he's going to ask me for something he knows I don't want to do. "You barely spoke to anyone all night. You didn't even thank her for the dinner. You were just there with a sour face, and now she's upset because she thinks you're mad at her." I opened my mouth but couldn't think of anything to say, so I stayed silent. Finally, I let out, "Of course I'm mad at her. She went and told everyone about the baby after promising me she wouldn't. I had every right to be upset, Mark. He sighed and rubbed his face. Was she wrong? Yes. Her emotions got the best of her, but ignoring her all night was cruel, and you have to apologize before tomorrow. I got out of the car and went into the house without saying a word. He followed me to the bedroom and said, Elise? I'm serious. My mom called me crying while we were in the car. She thinks you hate her. I put on my pajamas and answered, well, that's good. Maybe that way she'll start thinking about why. He looked at me as if I were speaking Chinese. You're exaggerating. In the end, she only asked for prayers. That's what families do. I got into bed, turned off the light, and told him, if you don't understand what she did wrong, I don't even know how to explain it to you. He stayed silent for a while in the dark. Then he left, and I heard the door to the guest room close. The next day, I woke up to 17 new messages. Mark's aunt asking if I was okay because Lorraine had called her alarmed about my mental health. His cousin offering help because she heard I wasn't handling things well. Another one saying Lorraine said I was acting weird and asking if I didn't want to talk to a specialist. I read one after another, all from people I barely talked to, worried about my stability because Lorraine spent the whole night calling the family to say something was wrong with me. I went down to the kitchen and showed the phone to Mark. Look at this. Do you see what your mom is doing? He just glanced at the screen and shrugged. She's just worried about you. We all are. I snapped at him. She is not worried about me. She is making everyone believe I'm crazy. So when I tell them what she did, nobody will believe me. Mark left his cup on the table and said, seriously, listen to how you sound. You seem paranoid. My mom loves you. She tries to help you and you treat her like she's your enemy. That was when I realized he was never going to understand. He has spent 30 years believing that everything Lorraine does is out of love, and I wasn't going to snap him out of it in a single conversation. 3 days later, a coworker stopped me in the hallway to ask if everything was okay at home. I asked her what she was talking about, and looking uncomfortable, she said, your mother-in-law went to my church's prayer group yesterday and asked us to pray for you because, according to what she told everyone, you aren't taking care of yourself and she's worried you might hurt yourself because you're handling the pregnancy loss badly. In that moment, I felt the ground move. Lorraine had gone to my coworker's church, stood in front of strangers, and painted a story where I was someone about to hurt myself. She was building her case, arranging the pieces so that the day I exploded and told the truth, nobody would take me seriously. I got home and Mark was watching TV. I told him, your mom went to my coworker's prayer group to tell them she's worried I might hurt myself. He paused the TV and said, she told me she was going to talk to several people to see if they could help you. Honestly, I think it's a good idea because you haven't been well. I replied, how am I going to be well if I lost my baby? Then your mom took it upon herself to tell 30 people, and now I've spent a week finding out that she's telling everyone I'm crazy. He stood up and approached me as if to calm me down, putting his hands on my shoulders. Honey, maybe you should talk to someone. Mom knows a very good therapist from church. She feels you aren't handling the grief well, and honestly, I think I'm starting to think so too. I stepped back and said, so you want me to go to a therapist chosen by your mom so she can control that narrative too? He threw his hands up. See? That's exactly what I mean. You're acting as if everyone is against you. That's not normal, Elise. That's not right. That night he went to sleep in the guest room, saying he needed space to think because I refused to apologize and didn't want to seek help, and he honestly didn't know what else to do. I stayed alone, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how Lorraine managed to leave me completely isolated in just 2 weeks. My husband thinks I'm crazy, his family does too, and now even the people at work. She took the worst moment of my life and used it to destroy all my relationships, and she did it while crying and asking for prayers. The next day, I saw that Lorraine had posted a photo of the dinner on Facebook. It was her hugging me at the table with her eyes closed and her face pressed against my hair. The caption said, I ask for prayers for my dear daughter-in-law in this difficult moment. She is going through a lot, but our family will get her through it. 200 likes. 40 comments saying what a wonderful mother-in-law she is, and a bunch of people tagging phone numbers of psychologists for me to see. I took screenshots of everything and sent it to my best friend, Danielle, with the message, am I crazy? Or is this out of control? She called me instantly. What is wrong with that woman? She's posting about your loss on Facebook and making people believe you're about to collapse? I told her everything. The dinner, the messages, the prayer group, Mark sleeping in the other room. Danielle stayed silent and then said, you have to get out of there. She wants to destroy you and your husband is helping her. I replied, and where am I going to go just like that? She said, with me, if you want. But I'm serious, Elise. What she is doing is not normal. It is calculated. She is setting a trap for you and you need to discover what it is before she finishes sinking you. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in the kitchen wondering how my life fell apart so quickly in 2 weeks. I lost my baby, I lost my husband, I lost my reputation, and meanwhile, Lorraine is out there gaining everyone's sympathy and asking for prayers, while I stayed alone in a house that didn't even feel mine anymore. I agreed to help her prepare for her anniversary party, but I wasn't going there just to fold napkins. Lorraine thought letting me into her house alone was safe because in her mind, she already had everyone convinced I was the unhinged one. But women like her always hide things, and now, I was going to check every corner until I found something that proved who she really was. I never imagined what I was getting when she gave me those keys. What I discovered in her closet changed my life completely. 2 weeks after the dinner, Lorraine called me saying she needed help organizing her 30th anniversary party. Kenneth is out of town until Thursday, and I can't do everything alone, she said with that sweet tone that made me want to slam the phone. I answered yes because Mark was watching and because I knew if I refused, it would give her more reasons to talk bad about me. She would go around saying I wasn't even well enough to help with a simple party, adding it to her collection of proofs that something weird was going on with me. So on Saturday, very early, I arrived at her house and spent 3 hours carrying boxes and ironing tablecloths while she sat on the couch, only to correct me on everything. Napkins are folded like swans, not rectangles, she said without looking up from her cell phone. And the centerpieces go toward the west. The light looks better in photos there. I just nodded, moved things, put them back, and at times fantasized about running away and never coming back. Around noon, she sent me upstairs for some extra chairs she had in her closet. "They're all the way in the back," she yelled from downstairs, behind the boxes. "But please don't mess everything up." I went up, entered the master bedroom, and opened the closet door. It was huge, the size of my living room, with shelves, drawers, and clothes organized by color. I made my way through the dresses, moved some boxes, and found the folding chairs against the back wall. While pulling them out, I accidentally knocked a shoebox off the top shelf and a bunch of receipts scattered everywhere. I bent down to pick them up and then I saw what they were for. Jewelry, each piece more expensive than the last. A diamond bracelet from 2 years ago. Pearl earrings that Santa supposedly brought her. A necklace that surely cost more than my car. I never saw Lorraine wearing any of that. Not a single time. I was gathering the receipts when I heard her cell phone vibrate on the nightstand. She must have left it there when she went to open the door. I could have ignored it. I could have taken the chairs and went down as if nothing happened. But something made me get close and look at the screen. It was a notification from someone saved as Emmanuel, and it had a little heart. I could read the first line of the message. "Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you." I felt my whole body turn ice cold. Emmanuel. That name sounded familiar. He was the deacon at the church. Years of going to family dinners, always sitting next to Lorraine, pouring her wine first, and laughing at all her jokes. I wanted to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was another Emmanuel. Maybe the message was innocent, and only I was thinking the worst. But I already had the cell phone in my hand. I entered the code, the same one I had seen her use at so many dinners, and in a second I was in. I went to the messages. I searched for the conversation with Emmanuel and started reading. "I miss you already. You're the only one who understands me. Kenneth doesn't touch me like you do. I wish I had married you." There were 7 years of messages there. 7 years of "I love you, I need you, you are my soulmate," and things written that made me want to vomit. I kept reading with trembling hands and then I saw the photos. Lorraine in lingerie I had never seen her wear. Emmanuel, shirtless in what looked like a hotel. The two of them together in bed. With dates I recognized easily. The anniversary trip to Napa. The family reunion in Lake Tahoe. Christmas Eve 2 years ago when she said she was tired and went to sleep early. I closed the conversation and checked the photos. There was a hidden album. Hundreds more. Hotel rooms, restaurant receipts, screenshots of reservations at places she told Kenneth she was going with friends. Then I remembered the jewelry receipts. I went back to the closet and checked the dates. Every piece of jewelry was bought the same week as some anniversary trip. Emmanuel gave her things she couldn't wear in front of her husband. She hid them like trophies. I stood there, surrounded by proof of 7 years of lies, and felt something break inside me. That woman destroyed my reputation, pushed my husband away, announced my baby's death, and then labeled me crazy because I got upset. And meanwhile, she talked about fidelity and family values while sleeping with the church deacon. I took out my cell phone and started taking photos of everything. Messages, photos, receipts. I did it fast and carefully, saving every proof on my phone. Then I left her cell phone exactly where it was. I grabbed the chairs and went down. "I found them. Where do I put them?" I said casually. Lorraine smiled at me from the couch and said, "Next to the windows. And thank you really for helping me. I know we've been tense lately, but I do appreciate what you do." I answered her with a smile. Of course, that's what family is for. She had no idea what I had just found. That I already had in my hands everything necessary to ruin her. The rest of the afternoon I spent arranging chairs, hanging decorations, watching Lorraine scold the caterer, while I tried to figure out what I was going to do with all that. Part of me wanted to go find Kenneth right then and tell him everything. He deserved to know the truth about his wife, but the other part knew that would be too easy. Lorraine humiliated me in front of everyone, announced my loss, and then made everyone think I was crazy. She didn't deserve a quiet ending. What she had to feel was exactly that. Being exposed, humiliated, and destroyed in front of all those people she tries so hard to impress. The party would be in 2 weeks. 200 guests gathered to celebrate 30 years of faithful marriage. There would be a projector for the video and a microphone for the toasts. And everyone Lorraine wanted to impress would be there, watching her receive praise for a marriage she had been destroying for years. I drove home with my phone full of screenshots, and a plan was already forming in my head. 7 years of saved evidence, and finally I could show Mark who his mother really was. Lorraine didn't even know I had found her burner phone while she was downstairs bragging about her perfect marriage. That night I planned to sit my husband down and force him to see every message until he couldn't defend her anymore. There was no way he would protect her after this. I'm going to tell you step by step how that conversation went. I waited for Mark to get home from work, and as soon as he did, I sat him at the kitchen table. I told him, "I need to show you something, and I want you to really see it before saying anything." He let out a sigh as if he already knew I was going to waste his time. But he sat down anyway and asked, "Okay, what is it?" I slid my cell phone across the table with Emmanuel's messages open. "Today I found this on your mom's phone. Turns out she's been having a relationship with Deacon Emmanuel for 7 years." Mark took the phone and stayed there reviewing everything in silence for a good while. I watched him, waiting for the moment when he would finally realize I was always honest about her. When he finally looked up, there was no surprise, anger, or pain on his face, only contempt. Directed at me. "You went through my mom's phone?" He snapped at me. I froze. "Did you read what it says there? Your mom has been cheating on your dad with the church deacon for 7 years. There are photos, receipts, and..." He didn't let me finish. He stood up and slammed my phone on the table. "I don't care what appears there. You got into my mom's phone and violated her privacy, and now you want to use what you found to turn me against her." I felt like the floor was moving. I didn't get into anything. She left the phone upstairs. I saw a notification come in and I only checked because... He interrupted me. "Because you are obsessed with proving she is bad. You've been paranoid for weeks and now you're even checking her phone looking for proof. Do you realize how that sounds?" I took the phone and held it up in front of him. "Look at the photos, Mark. Check the dates. She was seeing him even on your parents' anniversary. On Christmas Eve too. This isn't paranoia, these are proofs. He shook his head slowly. Or who knows? Maybe it's all fake. You could have invented everything. Used Photoshop. Created fake screenshots. And made her look bad just because you're jealous of how close we are. I looked at him and realized he was never going to believe me. It didn't matter what I put in his face. He had spent 30 years believing only in everything his mom said, and nothing was going to make him change. Not even proof of her betrayal. I didn't invent anything, I barely managed to say. But you're going to believe whatever you want, right? He walked toward the door and before leaving he told me, tonight I'm going to stay with my mom. I think you need to stay alone and think very well about what you did. He left, leaving me sitting at the table, looking at the screenshots on my phone, and wondering how it was possible that Lorraine always came out winning. Even if I had the evidence of her worst secret. The next day I woke up with a notification from an unknown number. The message said, I know what you found. You better not say anything. Or I tell everyone that you caused your own abortion. I felt a chill in my body. I stared at the message, reading it over and over again with trembling hands. She knew. Somehow she knew I had found the messages, and instead of being scared, she was now threatening me. I called Mark and he didn't answer. I insisted and he sent me straight to voicemail. I drove to Lorraine's house and found the two of them on the porch drinking coffee as if nothing was wrong. When she saw me get out of the car, Lorraine smiled as if everything was perfect. Good morning, darling. Did you sleep well? Mark told me you've been having trouble sleeping lately. I showed her the message on my phone. You sent this. She tilted her head with that fake confused face she does so well. Send what? I don't know what you're talking about. Mark took the phone, read the message, and his face hardened. You surely sent it to yourself, he said. Just like you fabricated those screenshots. Lorraine stroked his arm and told him, calm down, son. She isn't well. We both know it. It's getting to be time to find her real help before she does something foolish she regrets. I looked at them united, mother and son defending each other, and it became clear to me that secretly I was never going to win. Lorraine had spent 30 years preparing him to only believe her. She always had the tear, the excuse, and the justification ready for everything. If I ever wanted to unmask her, it would have to be in a place where she couldn't flip the story, where everyone could see the evidence and draw their own conclusions, where she could no longer manipulate Mark with her games. The anniversary party was in 6 days. 200 witnesses, a giant screen, and a microphone. If Lorraine wanted to brag about 30 years of faithful marriage, I was going to ensure everyone saw how it really was. Private didn't work, so I was going to leave her exposed in front of everyone she always wanted to impress. She thought she had already won because Mark defended her, but she forgot about the 200 guests coming to celebrate her perfect marriage. That party was going to have a projector and a microphone, and I was going to know how to use both. She wanted to act like the exemplary wife in front of her friends, so I would let her brag until she couldn't anymore. Come back for the anniversary party because this is going to get good. The night of the party, I stood in front of my closet for more than 20 minutes, not knowing what to wear. Mark hadn't been home for 4 days, staying with his mom and only texting me to ask if my anger had passed yet. In the end, I chose a red dress I had stored for years and never worn because once Lorraine said that color was too flashy for my skin tone, I got ready very calmly, reviewing every detail of what I was about to do. The USB drive was already in my purse. I had spent 5 days organizing everything, messages by date, photos arranged chronologically, a timeline clearly showing when each thing happened and what lie Lorraine had told Kenneth to cover it up. I went alone to the event hall, the most luxurious place in town, with crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and 200 guests dressed in gala attire, ready to celebrate what they thought were 30 years of a fairy tale marriage. Lorraine saw me as soon as I crossed the door and came at me with open arms. Elise, you came! She pulled me in for a hug and whispered in my ear, smile, or everyone will think you're making a scene again. Smile. I answered her. I wouldn't miss this for the world, Lorraine. Tonight really is going to be unforgettable. She looked at me with a suspicious face, but in that moment someone called her and she walked away smiling, receiving compliments on her dress, the decoration, and her beautiful marriage. I found my place at a table near the back and started observing how everyone was arriving without having any idea of what they were really celebrating. Kenneth was by the bar, uncomfortable in his suit because he never liked these parties. Once he told me Lorraine organized these events to shine alone and he just went where he was told. Mark approached my table and sat down without looking at me. I wasn't sure you would come, he said in a low voice. I wasn't sure either, I replied. But I decided I didn't want to miss your mom's big night. He looked at me with a bit of hope on his face. Does that mean you're ready to apologize? To leave all this behind? I raised my glass of champagne, took a long sip, and said, I think tonight our lives are going to change, Mark. Let's just wait and see what happens. The event started promptly at 7. Lorraine didn't leave a minute unplanned. First, a slideshow of photos of their 30 years together. Then the toasts from family and friends. Then her speech about the secret to a lasting marriage. Ending with dinner, dancing, and surely more than one tear. Prayers and thanks to God for giving her such a good husband. I watched the presentation and there it was. 30 years of smiles. Lorraine and Kenneth on their wedding day. Lorraine holding Mark as a baby. Family vacations, Christmases, anniversaries. A whole life summarized in photos perfectly chosen to tell the story Lorraine wanted everyone to believe. The toasts began. Mark's aunt said Lorraine was the glue of the family. A friend from church praised her for her devotion to her husband and God. And the pastor held her up as an example for other women. Then Emmanuel stood up. I saw him approach the microphone with his glass and a smile. Tall, well-dressed, looking like the close friend of the couple. I've known Lorraine and Kenneth for almost 15 years, he said, and I can tell you with total sincerity that I have never seen a more committed couple. What they have is an inspiration. How they support each other. How they always put family first. They have built their life on faith, love, and devotion. He raised his glass and toasted to 30 more years, and everyone followed him. Lorraine wiped away tears and Emmanuel went back to sit with his wife. That same wife who didn't know her husband had been with Lorraine for 7 of those 15 years. Lorraine took the microphone and I knew she would talk about the famous secret to a lasting marriage, trust, communication, and never going to sleep angry. I reached into my purse and felt the USB drive. I was just waiting for the right moment. 30 years, Lorraine began with a trembling voice, almost like an actress. 30 years ago, I married my best friend, and since then, every day I am grateful to share my life with him. She turned to look at Kenneth with eyes full of tears. We have gone through difficult times like everyone else, but we never stopped choosing each other. We never put anything above the family. We have never broken the vows we made before God and our families. I stood up and my chair made enough noise for several people to turn around. Lorraine stopped mid-sentence and I noticed her getting nervous as I approached the stage. Elise? She said into the microphone. What are you doing? I walked up the steps and stood next to her. I would like to say something if you don't mind. Her face transformed several times, first surprised, then suspicious. And suddenly she smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course, my dear. What would you like to say? She stepped back from the microphone and I stepped up, looking at those 200 people who wouldn't take their eyes off me. I spotted Kenneth at the head table, Mark frozen in his chair, and Emmanuel half rising as if he already suspected something wasn't right. I took the USB out of my purse and held it up for everyone to see. The images were already ready on the computer, just waiting for the exact instant to bring down Lorraine's theater. She didn't even imagine that everything was prepared so that with a signal to the sound booth, everyone would see the messages and photos on the screen in front of 200 people. For the first time since all this started, I had absolute control. When the moment came, Lorraine grabbed my wrist before I could reach the projector. Her hand was a strong claw with nails digging into my skin, but her smile never changed. Elise, sweetheart, let's go get some air, she muttered through her teeth. You look like you don't feel well. I pulled loose from her grip and answered. Actually, I'm perfect. Better than I've been in weeks. She leaned in and whispered. If you do something stupid right now, I will destroy you. I will tell them you are in full crisis, have you committed, and make sure Mark never looks for you again. I replied softly. You already did that. What else do you have left? For a second her smile faltered, but immediately it returned, and she said loudly so everyone could hear. Of course, you can say a few words. Here we are, all family. She gestured for me to pass, but in her eyes, I saw how she measured every movement, trying to guess if I had something prepared she couldn't handle, some evidence she couldn't justify. But before I could reach the sound booth, Lorraine grabbed my arm and, faking a lot of affection, guided me toward the hallway with that hand that felt like iron. First we have to talk, she murmured, but alone. She pushed me into a closet and closed the door. In the dark, I finally saw who she really was. No smile, no sweetness, pure coldness. I know you found something, she snapped. Mark already told me you went through my phone. Whatever you have isn't going to work. I have spent 30 years building my reputation. Here I am, the woman everyone trusts, and you have spent 2 weeks acting unstable, unable to get over your baby. I felt my body go stiff at those words. I didn't lose a baby, I said quietly. My baby died. It's not the same. Lorraine waved her hand to dismiss the importance. It doesn't matter, it's the same. What matters is that no one will believe you. You can have videos and they will still think you invented them because I already told them you are unstable, paranoid, obsessed with destroying me. She got closer and I smelled her perfume mixed with the smell of champagne. So now you are going to go out. You are going to smile, applaud my speech, and you are going to act like the perfect daughter-in-law. Then you are going to go to your house, pack your things, ask for a divorce, and you are going to disappear from my son's life. If you do it without making a scene, no one will find out what really happened with your thing. I froze. What did she mean by what really happened? She smiled, and I had never seen such a cruel face. Everyone knows stress causes spontaneous abortions. That's no secret to anyone. And you were so stressed, weren't you? You worked non-stop, always fighting with Mark because you wanted to have kids and he wasn't ready, and you kept insisting until your body simply couldn't take it anymore. She lowered her head and looked at me. That is the version I will give if you force me. That you wanted a baby so much you didn't care about anything, that you ignored your own body's signals, that you preferred to keep working and not take care of yourself, and that everything was because you were too selfish to stop. In the darkness of the closet, I finally understood I was facing someone with absolutely no limits, capable of inventing whatever she needed to sink whoever stood in her way. Someone who decided I was completely expendable the moment I no longer served her. You know what the worst part is? I murmured. That at some point I actually thought you truly loved Mark, and that you did everything because you were an overly protective mother, even if you were wrong. But the truth is you don't love anyone, do you? Not Kenneth, not Mark, not even Emmanuel. The only thing you love is being adored. Something moved in her eyes. I don't know if it was surprise, or if she felt discovered. You have no idea what you're saying, she answered, but the security had disappeared from her voice. I already found your jewelry, I said. The diamond bracelet, the pearls, the necklace. All those gifts from Emmanuel that you hide because you can't wear them in front of your husband. You have them stored like prizes, like trophies, just to remind yourself there is someone who desires you. Her face turned pale, pressing her lips together under the dim light. That's what all this is about, right? Not love, not family. Just seeking to be seen as perfect, desired, always at the center. Suddenly Lorraine reached out and squeezed my neck, not to suffocate me, just to make her anger clear. You know nothing about my life, she whispered furiously. You have no idea what it is to give everything for a family that doesn't even see you. To have to smile, pretend, and sacrifice yourself for 30 years so that in the end no one recognizes you. I knocked her hand away and replied, You're right. I can't imagine that because I would never do what you did just to not feel invisible. I walked out of the closet passing by her and opened the door to return to the party hall, while Lorraine came behind me, still with that cold smile, as if it served as a shield. Elise, wait, she said with a sweet voice. You forgot your purse. I didn't fight her and walked straight to the sound booth. I gripped the USB in my hand and passed it to the guy in charge of the projector. Add this to the presentation, I asked him. Play it when I tell you. Although he looked at me strangely, he connected it immediately and I took the microphone. Lorraine was close to the stage watching everyone, unaware of what was about to happen. She still believed she could control the situation, clueless that her whole world was about to collapse in that instant. "Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight," I said with the steadiest voice I could manage, though I felt my heart about to jump out. Lorraine has talked about this party for months. 30 years of marriage. 30 years of loyalty. 30 years of leaving everything for her family. I paused. I saw Lorraine with her stiff smile and added, "But before we continue celebrating, I think you deserve to know what these 30 years have really been like." I signaled the booth, and the big screen changed, removing the wedding photos to show something completely unexpected. First, a text message appeared. "Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you." Then, a photo of Lorraine and Emmanuel together in a hotel room dated 5 years ago. Then another message. "I wish I had married you and not Kenneth." A brutal silence fell over the entire hall. 200 people froze, trying to process what they were seeing. I saw Emmanuel's wife stand up with her hand over her mouth, and Kenneth turned pale as he read every message scrolling across the screen. I saw Lorraine's smile finally vanish. "These messages span 7 years," I recited into the microphone. 7 years of lies, of betrayals. 7 years of Lorraine talking about family values while cheating on Kenneth with the church deacon. Lorraine wanted to get close to the projector, but 2 of Mark's cousins stopped her. Emmanuel tried to leave, but the wedding party from the hall next door didn't let him pass. I continued. "She announced my miscarriage in front of 30 people after promising me she would keep it a secret. She told everyone I had mental problems, that I was crazy, that my husband should mistrust me. She did all that while swearing love to her boyfriend and telling him how much she wished she was with him instead of Kenneth." Kenneth stood up from his seat, walked to the screen, and read every message one by one with a face full of shock. When he saw the one dated on their 25th anniversary that said, "I wish I was with you tonight" instead of him, he took off his wedding ring, and after staring at Lorraine, he threw it in her face and walked out of the hall without saying a word. Half the room went after him. 200 people witnessed live the end of Lorraine's marriage, and she was still trying to find a way out. She grabbed the microphone and screamed that I was a liar, that I was jealous and crazy, but not even that could cover what everyone was seeing on the screen. No one believed her anymore, and everything she said sank her deeper. I stripped everything away from her in front of the people she always wanted to impress. I thought it ended there, but she still had one last resource. She started screaming that the photos were fake, that I had edited everything because I was obsessed with destroying her family, but the images kept playing and she was already invisible to the rest. Suddenly, Emmanuel's wife raised her champagne glass and smashed it against the wall, scattering glass everywhere. Emmanuel tried to leave, but Mark's cousins wouldn't let him and cornered him, questioning him about his relationship with their aunt. Even the pastor, who minutes before had held her up as an example of a Christian woman, stood frozen watching the messages between Lorraine and Emmanuel projected on the screen. 2 friends from church broke down crying and hugged each other, saying they couldn't believe it, that they had opened their homes and trusted her. The waiters had stepped aside watching the show as if they couldn't process what was happening. Emmanuel's wife managed to push through the crowd until she reached him. 7 years? She screamed at him. 7 years cheating on me with her? We have children, Emmanuel. We have a life together. How could you do this to me? Emmanuel was still there, cornered by Mark's cousins. His face was red and dripping with sweat, repeating endlessly, "It's not what you think. Those messages are old. My thing with her ended years ago. Honey, please, you have to believe me." One of the cousins, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear, said, "The dates are from last month. Here's one from Tuesday where it says he couldn't wait to see her again." Emmanuel's wife let out a wail like a wounded animal and left immediately. Her daughters, who were seated at a table near the front, ran to hug her while she broke down crying. Emmanuel tried to call them, but his voice was lost in the chaos that erupted. Finally, the pastor managed to make himself heard. "This is a house of God," he said, almost voiceless. "We should calm down and resolve this in private." "House of God?" screamed someone from the back. "Your deacon has been sleeping with a married woman for 7 years, and you still want us to calm down?" The pastor fell silent. Lorraine kept screaming into the microphone, "It's all a lie. She invented everything. She has always wanted to ruin me since she met my son. Ask Mark. Ask him how she really is." She pointed at Mark, who was still sitting there without moving. Tell them she is crazy. Tell them she has always been a disaster." Mark stood up slowly and all eyes turned to him. First he looked at his mom, then at the screen where the photo of her and Emmanuel lying in bed was. Then he looked at me, standing at the microphone with the USB still in my hand. "Is it true?" he asked his mom. He spoke quietly, but since everyone fell silent, everyone heard him. "Have you been unfaithful to my dad for 7 years?" Lorraine's weeping gave her away. "Mark, son, you have to understand. Your dad hasn't touched me in years. Emmanuel and I connect in another way. It's not what you think. I still love your dad, but I needed to be valued." "And it's true," insisted Mark. "Yes or no?" Lorraine sobbed. "Yes, but it's not my fault. You don't understand how my marriage is. Your dad is cold, distant, and Emmanuel actually sees me." And Mark turned his back on her and walked out before she finished the sentence. Lorraine screamed his name and ran after him, but her heel got caught on the corner of the stage. She tripped and tried to grab onto the table where the anniversary cake was, but she couldn't hold on. The whole cake came down and she fell face first, smearing herself in the 3 tiers of white frosting and fondant. Nobody moved for a few seconds. Lorraine lay there, a mess amidst what remained of her anniversary cake, crying and covered in frosting, with 200 guests watching her in complete silence. Someone in the back couldn't hold it and burst out laughing, and in seconds half the room was laughing and the other half taking out their cell phones to record the show. Lorraine got up on her knees, frosting dripping from her hair, her expensive dress ruined, mascara running down her cheeks in black stains. She looked around at all those people who for years told her she was perfect, and now she only saw faces of pity, contempt, and stifled giggles. "Stop recording," she shrieked. "Enough! This is a family matter. You have no right to interfere. You lost the right to privacy when you told everyone about my miscarriage," I said into the microphone. "Now let everyone see who you really are." I got off the stage and walked toward the exit. Emmanuel's wife grabbed my arm as I passed and told me in a low voice, "Thank you." I suspected for years but never had proof. I nodded and continued on my way. "Now!" Lorraine screamed. "Elise, come back! Don't leave! You ruined everything! You destroyed my family! Elise!" I was about to reach the door when Mark stood in front of me. His face was white, eyes glassy as if everything he believed had fallen on top of him. "Why did you do this? Why did you humiliate her like that in front of everyone?" he asked. I looked at him feeling something cold in my chest. She was the one who told 30 people about my miscarriage after swearing to me she would keep it secret. She told everyone I was crazy. She threatened to say I caused the loss myself. "And you always defended her. You always put her above me." He shook his head. "She is my mom," I answered him. "And I was your wife. And not a single time, not even by mistake, did you choose me." I took out the burner phone I had grabbed from Lorraine's closet the day I saw the messages and put it in his hand. "Here is everything. Messages, photos, all the lies she told your dad for 7 years. I was going to show it only to you, give you a chance to fix it as a family, but you told me I invented everything, that I was crazy. You went to live with her and let her make my life impossible. So I solved it in the only way she left me." I walked past him and headed to the exit. Lorraine kept screaming my name. I could hear her moans and how she choked on the frosting asking for help to stand up. I didn't even turn around. I walked out of the hall, felt the fresh night air, and kept walking to my car. My hands were shaking as I opened the door and sat behind the wheel. I stayed there for a while. Blank. I had destroyed my mother-in-law's marriage and reputation in front of 200 people. I had thrown my own marriage overboard in the most public way possible. I broke all the ties that bound me to the family I entered 5 years ago. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel guilt. I felt freedom. For the first time since that dinner where Lorraine told everyone about my miscarriage, I felt I could breathe again. My cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Danielle. "I saw on Facebook that something happened at the anniversary party. Are you okay?" "What did you do?" I replied briefly. "I'll tell you everything." "Can I stay at your house tonight?" She answered quickly. "I'm already preparing the guest room. Arrive safely." I started the car, left the parking lot, and drove toward Danielle's apartment without looking back a single time toward the hotel where my mother-in-law was still covered in cake, believing I ruined her life. She ruined mine first. I just returned the favor.